Howdy, it's Brian, and yes, I am this unlevel where I'm parked. I wanted to give an update on how the truck's holding up now that I've been on the road for over a month now. So far, inside, I've been pretty happy. Everything's holding up well. I've been on some really bumpy roads, getting out into dispersed camping areas in the National Forest. Now, outside, we've got some things I can talk about with the motorcycle that have been giving me grief. Really, the only issue I've got is back here with the unistrut. There's a screw that is pinned into part of the window frame on these, and the small screws I used originally, they will eventually vibrate themselves out. You can kind of notice this guy's peeled away from the wall. That's what's happened. So I've got some bigger lag screws that I've put in, and this one's held up good, so I'll do the same to the rest here, and should stop all of that from happening. The bed holding up well with the jerry-rigged winches. This is Roger's favorite daytime spot. Take a nap. Normally, actually, it'll be up, which he really likes. And but yeah, so it goes up and down, like, a couple times of the day. Usually, if I've got the back opened, I added some pins here for it to rest on. I like this spot because I can lay in and look out the window, versus when it's down is nice in the city. You get a little bit more privacy, and you can sit up and look out the window. Up here in the kitchen, things seem to be holding up pretty good. I mean, my only complaint really would be to have more water. I've got 27 gallons. It would be really nice to have, 40, 50 gallons. That's the thing I seem to run out of most. With the Corians holding up well. The installer I had gotten the Corian from said, when he looked at my design, so I had to glue two pieces together to make this L shape, and there's a seam that runs through the stovetop opening, and he said that could cause issue due to the expansion and contraction as it conducts heat into the Corian. I've not been having any issues with it. It's holding up good, knock on wood. I had one little incident where I forgot to close something and we had a lot of dishes fall down, but otherwise it's doing pretty good. The fridge is holding up well. This is a winter fridge. I've got both compartments still set to refrigerator mode. Haven't put that to freezer yet. Still working out the kinks in cooking in an RV and having limited storage space in the cooler. But other than that, the solar's doing great. I've not had any issues with it that I'm aware of. Go up there and check it every now and then to make sure nothing's coming loose. Without running the air conditioner, which has come in handy when I was in Grand Junction and some other areas where they were getting pretty hot during the day. I did kick it on. But otherwise, I've got gobs of power, a little microwave I can run. I've actually bought a welding machine. It's a Century flux core wire feeder because I had some issues with the motorcycle. We'll talk about that. And it runs the welding machine. I've run some little beads with it. They seem pretty decent. The issue is actually finding a place you can actually legally weld up here with all the fire bans. Large parking lots, I think, is the rule. 80 somewhat feet of non-flammable hard surfaces. But yeah, so inside I'm pretty happy. There's a couple things that I thought I would have gotten done by now, but there's just plenty of outdoor recreation between the motorcycle riding and hiking. Haven't gotten around to wiring up this USB plug. I also had a little 12-volt fan I intended to mount here. I haven't gotten around to that, and some other little projects. So let's go outside and we'll talk about the motorcycle carrier. So yeah, I should be sitting on a hitch-mounted motorcycle carrier, but I'm not because it is gone. This was a very bad day, but basically what happened was coming up a very bumpy little road to get up here. I heard a ka-thunk and looked in the camera, and I saw the motorcycle on the ground. I came back here. It was still actually attached on the bottom, and the whole carrier was down at like a 80-90 degree angle with the motorcycle still strapped on, surprisingly. The boxes had rubbed and some of the controls were a little messed up, but mostly still rideable. Got that off and broke off the carrier. It's still halfway down the mountain. I'll have to get it on the way out. But yeah, so you know, if you look at this thing says it was rated for 500 pounds, but the wall of this tubing is pretty thin. I don't know. It's been giving me grief. I also had earlier on this lower receiver is what I was originally using, and the weld started to delaminate. Now that's my fault. You know, I've got this. I have to use an extension because of the lift gate. There's just not enough room for the motorcycle, and so this wasn't beefy enough. I found somebody in Salida to weld me a much sturdier one. We put it up higher so it gives me some more clearance, because I did have this thing scrape on the ground, which it might, you know, just there was a lot of scraping and bumping on this with this lower one, so maybe the material fatigued here on this. I'm not really sure, but it was not a fun day. So I've got a new one coming that apparently has 1/8" walls here. It's a bit sturdier. Some other people said that they think it's pretty reliable, that I trust. They're using that. But yeah, the motorcycle carrier, just in general on this, has just been a total pain in the butt. I've had issues with it falling off trying to unload it by myself, especially in this higher position. You know, it's an extra 4 inches, and the ramp just isn't long enough. You know, it's like a 45 degree. You're trying to get it up, and sometimes, you know, I've had the ramp fall off while I was trying to push it up. It's just been a pain in the butt. So if we come over, I'll show you what happened to the motorcycle here. You know, so if you can tell, this is a bit wilted, and what happened was the corner of the box down here had drug. You know, these ammo cans are stout. They've taken a lot of abuse. Also down here, I had to replace this in the field after getting myself in on a trail I didn't realize was going to be very intense. Turned out to be a long day of riding, and at some point I hit a boulder going across a river crossing, and that started everything downhill with some cracked welds. Alright, so it got too windy to film outside, but the truck mechanically has been holding up okay. You know, it's only 170 horsepower, 4-cylinder diesel, so I'm not going to win any races going up the mountain. But I seem to be able to do 40. You know, some of the really steep grades that aren't on highways, you know, looking at like 20, 30, depending on like how much speed you have going into the climb. But it's not overheating. It's doing pretty good. Coming down the mountain, the engine brake really makes a difference. Having that exhaust brake, you really can feel it when it kicks in. So don't have to use too much brake pressure there. And the only issue that I had was coming over Monarch Pass. There is the air conditioner compressor for this rear air conditioner is mounted on the exhaust side, and the coolant hoses run right by the exhaust coming out of the turbo. And apparently what had happened was some of the heat shielding, which is a fabric heat shielding, had fallen off. And the radiated heat from the exhaust caused that hose to crack and break, which at the time was a little bit scary because I saw this huge blast of what looked like white steam, and then immediately pulled over. Luckily there was a turnoff right there, and looking at the block, there's a green residue on it, which come to find out was actually just the dye from the Freon, but at the time I was thinking it may be from the coolant. But after a lot of looking around, I finally found the crack was really hard to find in that rubber hose for the Freon line, and it's going to be pricey to fix. I haven't priced it out yet. It's going to be a custom hose, so I'll have to find somebody that can crimp those hoses with that. I don't know if that's a special tubing that can resist the Freon. And then it's going to be a lot of Freon between, you know, it's a pretty long run from the compressor to the skirt mounted condenser and back up to this guy here. So yeah, if anybody knows how much that would cost, that would be a great estimate to have. But being that I've still got the little window unit that I run off solar, you know, it's nice to have this guy. If you're driving and you know it's going to be hot, you can turn them on and pre-cool everything. But it's not the end of the world. It's not a core mechanical system, which with the coolant leak would have been an issue. The turbo does have a coolant line, which is all like hard steel stuff. So I was really curious, like, you know, was it coming out of the head? I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So that was a little bit of a panic trying to find what actually happened there coming over that pass. But otherwise, I've been pretty happy with things. You know, some of these roads are pretty rough, and she's holding up okay, knock on wood. And we'll keep on trucking, hopefully, here when we get a new motorcycle carrier and get everything down the mountain and load it up. Then we can hit the road and head on up into Wyoming. So, all right, have a great day. Hope that helps you if you're thinking about building one of these yourself. See you later.